Hello, all my JavaScript friends. This is TheVirtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and this is our factory game. And speaking of factory, we've refactored twice now in the last 3 weeks, trying to get the design correct and trying to get the game correct. And I'm here to say it is finally done, so I can actually start recording videos. How long has it been? Oh, about a month and a half to 2 months since we really wanted to start getting out the videos here. But we're here. We're going to start all over again with the videos, and we're going to go through this factory game. It was a lot more involved than I had originally anticipated. For example, let's just take a quick look here. I want to go to the code, go to the screens. Here are all the different classes on the left-hand side of all the different classes that we have defined within this game here. And even within these classes, for example, there are some extended classes, for lack of a better term. There's a store section class there. There are 4 more stats classes, and we'll go over those a little bit in more detail once we get into the game itself. But what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to start at the very top of the hierarchy with the game object and show you how that works, and then subsequent videos will start splitting up the game as we go along here. In a sense, what I did with the refactoring is I ended up with 3 main classes, what I call, well, actually 4 main classes, if you want to put it that way. The game class, which I do a lot of my games, that is the overriding class that controls everything, and that's what we'll be taking a look at today. And the other 3 classes are the classes that represent what you visually see on the screen in front of you. For example, there is a class that controls what I call the statistics, and the statistics has actually 4 different classes involved within it. This is the information class, which is information that's available, that appears at the very top of the screen there. For instance, if I was to click on this green button over here, you can see it says Luminite deposit, or if I was to put down a, see if it shows up there. If I was to put down an extractor, you can see if I click on the extractor, the information at the very top will return some information on the extractor. It also gives you a cursor position that as your cursor moves over the world, it will give you the cursor position. It gives you how much cache you have available and what your current inventory looks like. So for instance, if I wanted to purchase a straight piece, then that inventory will show up as a straight piece, and then I can drop that onto the world. And that's the first part of the screen. The second part of the screen is the world itself, and that's this section that you see in the middle. And this is where all of the fun starts with the game itself. This is where all the mouse movements are looked at, all the keystrokes are done, dropping buildings, all the movement of the ore and things like that. This one didn't go through as much refactoring as the other ones did, but it did go through some significant refactoring. Again, we'll cover that in another video. The third part is what you see on the right hand side there, and that is the store screen. And the store screen itself tells me different things that I can purchase. And all I have to do to purchase is I just have to highlight the button that's underneath each of the different, in this case, conveyors. Conveyors are what's on the screen. So if I was to click on the 6 right here for the straight, this will give me information, or this will allow me to buy a straight. This will allow me to buy a T intersection. This will allow me to buy another T intersection. And the same thing with the extractors down here. And we also have purifiers and combinators, which you can see on the main screen down here. You have the extractors, the purifiers, and the combinators, and each one has its own separate cost with it. But let's get into the game object itself. Like I said, this is the full controlling object that controls absolutely everything. Once the factory game starts up, it creates a new instance of this particular game class, and then it just goes at that particular point. So the idea here is that, like I said, the game controls all the different pieces of the game board. And like I said, we have 3 different pieces of the game board: the stats, the world, and the store. And so I have created 6 different variables here for stats, store, and world, and stats UI, store, world UI, and world UI. And when we get into the stats and the world and the store, I'm going to show you a little design that I've done here where I have created basically 2 classes to control the information. One is the main class itself, which controls all the business logic, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the UI logic. I did this a lot on my Snake game. And then we have the UI logic itself too. So the UI logic controls all the different UI. The the business logic is another class that controls all the business logic, how things are done. Like in stats, oh, I've got to update this particular cursor position. I will store that cursor position, and then I'll tell the stats UI to be able to update that. And that's basically the whole idea here is with the constructors and everything is to get everything completely all set up. But the game itself is also a conduit for doing all the different messaging. And the way I did the messaging is a lot of the same way I did with the snake messaging. Is I created what I called a game event class. And this game event class is all the different events that occur within the game. For instance, just as a thing here, if the cursor position ever updates, I send an event out to the game saying, hey, the cursor position is updated and here's the new position. You do what you need to do with it. Or if the cache has changed or anything like that. That allows me to be able to have all the different pieces within the game, the world, the stats, the store, to be able to communicate with each other via the game. So the store cannot communicate with the stats cannot communicate with the world, but what they can do is send events out to the game and let the game figure out where everything needs to go. And so the game event covers all of that, and it's very, very simple. The big thing here is the emit section, and the emit section is what drives everything. So for instance, if I go to the world object here, in this particular case, when we have to remove a building, you can highlight a building, click on or hit the delete key, and it will remove the building. I send the game event, or I emit the game event, a building removed. And what that will do is that will go into the game event, go to the emit, and then that will find the game object and then call the game emit object there. So what the game has done is the very first thing it does in the constructor is that it will set up the game event and say, hey, I'm the game person here, so whenever you get an event, you need to send it over to me. And so the game event will then do the emit, in which case the game will come up and say, okay, we've got the emit, what are we going to do? And it's just one giant if else, if else, if else. Like for instance, I had that building removed section one there for world. Well, here it is right here. It just calls the stats UI to say remove building, and that will allow me then to go into the stats UI and say, okay, I got to get that building removed from the statistics situation. And that's really all there is to it. But that's basically all the game really does. We've got a couple of different routines here. Starts everything up and gets everything ready to go. Preload is what is called by the PhaserJS to say I need to preload all of the different images that I'm going to be using. And the stats have their own preload, the world has their own preload, and the store has their own preload. Distribute, cache, create, update. This is the update timer. Now, again, the game itself in PhaserJS, I meant to mention this earlier, but the game extends PhaserJS Scene. So this is a PhaserJS scene, which means it's going to expect me to have a preload section, a create section, and an update section. This update section is called upon every tick, every request animation frame. So every tick is called, and this is where I control how often I do ticks within the game. And once I do a tick on the game, I then tell the world that you need to do an update and do some sort of update on the game. The world is what controls all of the ore movings across the conveyor belts when extractors extract information or extract ores, when the distribution center gathers it all in. There's no updates in the stores or the factory. All that's controlled through the world. So all we have to do is just say the world itself. And that's basically it. That's all that really happens with the game. So again, the game is a top-level object whose sole purpose in life is to get everything started up, to load up all of the different images, and then to update the world as within every tick. And then to receive any kind of events that happen to come in from the outside world, or in this case, actually a game event, and to process those events on their own. So that's all there is for the game object. Next video, we're going to be talking about the stats object. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel to view more videos. Click on the like button on this video and visit us at TheVirtuoid.com. Also, support us on Patreon, where you can get access to member-only videos. Links are down below. Again, thank you very much for watching, and keep on coding.